Okay, welcome to Happy Hour. Today we'll be giving kind of a story on how our family got started showing 4-H with San Clemente Island goats and kind of guidelines hopefully for other people to do the same. And if we'd like to start with introductions, that would be great. I'm Aaron Bai. I live in Minnesota. And if anyone else would like to go next.
Okay, I'll go. I'm Lisa Leonard. I live in Northern California.
Thank you, Lisa.
I'll go next.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Erin Link. I live in Western Wisconsin. And then Jenny, please tell us. Yeah.
Yes, hi. I'm Jenny. I am married to Aaron, our host this evening, and helping with tonight's presentation.
I'm Mike. I live in Southern California. I'm currently driving through a rare tropical rain here in San Diego. I'm pulling a livestock trailer with 15 goats and 2 alpacas.
That's amazing. Welcome.
And Mike lives in San Clemente, California, and he can sometimes see the island from his hills.
It's true.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and I see there's one other person online. If they would like to introduce themselves, they are welcome to. Okay, well, we can get started with the presentation, and Jenny, go for it.
All right. I am not a public speaker, so bear with me. I will do my best to sound eloquent. All right, so I'm excited to share this information. It's been kind of a passion project of our families to incorporate our love of our goats and raising our kids and working with our 4-H club. So tonight's presentation is how we started showing our San Clemente Island goats in 4-H. Aaron, if you want to advance the slide. All right, so why? Why do we want to show our goats, specifically our San Clemente Island goats in 4-H? And this is a complicated question, but I guess part of it's to promote the breed. And so in the end, it's about the growth of both the animals and us as human beings. And with that together, we are able to build community within the Breeders Association, within our 4-H club, within our geographic community and the families that we live near. And in the meantime, or in the midst of that, we get to teach the kids about animal care, responsibility, and then they become advocates for agriculture, for the goats, for the breed. And we all learn by doing, and that makes us all better people when we can work together and achieve something in common. And why 4-H? Why did we pick to do 4-H as our avenue for this? Our kids are already involved in 4-H before we started working with the goats. And even though Aaron and I were not in 4-H as youth ourselves, we were aware of the program, and we actually were both in FFA in high school. So we saw the value in the leadership opportunities, and we had very positive role models in our high school experience with agriculture, and we saw that same opportunity for our kids in 4-H. For Minnesota, 4-H is our largest youth development program in our state. On average, 40,000 kids are influenced in this program every year, and that's working with kids between kindergarten and grade 13, so 1 year out of high school. And for those of you not familiar with 4-H, H stands for Head, Heart, Hands, and Health, and they have a pledge that they recite, and they really do honor that. They really do want to make the kids very well-rounded individuals. The primary purpose of the livestock program in 4-H is to provide an opportunity for personal growth, and with that they learn feeding and caring for animals, and they also develop lots of positive character traits. Something that they use in a lot of the educational materials for 4-H is the 6 pillars of character, and those are trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. And actually, when our daughter saw this slide earlier, she saw it. It doesn't even say the 6 pillars on there, and she immediately knew. She goes, "Those are the 6 pillars." So it's kind of neat to see the kids recognize those things and probably apply it indirectly in their lives. The graphic there in the corner, we just quick took a photo. We just learned last week that the new promotional material for our local county about 4-H actually features a photo of Erin and I and our daughter from 2024's county fair. So that was kind of neat to see our photo used in the promotional material. Unfortunately, our son was not there the day the photo was taken, but it's still neat to see. That was taken in the barn with the goats. The goats didn't make it in that picture, but it's still a fun photo.
But the goat T-shirt did.
Yes, it did. Those come in handy. It's kind of fun. Our leasing kids, a lot of them have those shirts now, so they wear around town into 4-H events, and it's fun to see them share their love of the goats. So getting started, we were already started in 4-H with other programming, other activities and projects. Our kids also were showing through 4-H llamas and a leasing program. We don't own llamas, but we have worked with llamas for, I think we're going on 6 years now that we've been in that program. And it's a pretty awesome program. Dan Whitaker is our leader of that. He lives about 10 miles away from us, maybe. And he has a small farm, and he used to do breeding, and he no longer does. But he shares the animals with the local 4-H youth, and the kids get to lease the animals. They work with it for the summer and then show it at the county fair. And if they're eligible, they get to show it at the state fair. And that became our inspiration for how we were going to lease our goats. And we decided to model it very similarly with how we set up our lessons being twice a week, and the students come for about an hour, and we have chaperones that work with us. Sorry, I have pop-ups on my phone here. And with wanting to try to apply that same model for the goats, and we have been talking to our Breeders Association with the youth services and trying to figure out what could we do to incorporate youth in our breeders programming. And I used this example of the llamas to the Breeders Association. It was very well received, and so then I went back to our county and asked, how can we apply that same method to the goats? And there was an opportunity, which was awesome. We were limited, though, because with goats, we could only use breeding does, and part of that because of like the market weathers and things like that, that we couldn't have any animals go to auction that were leased. So we were limited, but that's okay. It was an opportunity, so we jumped on it. And it took a little maneuvering and a little finessing to figure out how we could get them to be shown. And it was a lot of back and forth conversations with our county leaders about what would be acceptable, because to our knowledge, nobody else in any other state had ever tried to add a category to the goats in the fair book for heritage goats. And so we were kind of treading in new waters, and it took a lot of persuasion and a lot of person meetings to convince our leadership and our extension service that this was a good idea. They wanted it for us. They wanted to support the growth of the program. They just weren't really sure the best way to do it. And so it turned into a project where it would be an exhibition class. And so it's kind of an experimental class. And the students are not eligible for the state fair, but they can show at the county fair. And that was enough for us to jump on it and say, let's do it. So we ran with it.
What were some of the pushbacks that they gave you?
Well, the first thing was that our animals have horns. And that was a scary thing for a lot of people, because the dairy goat families were not going to be supportive of that. And so we could not show under dairy goats. There was no bending those rules. So then it led us to the meat goat category, which was our gateway, because the breeding does could have horns, the breeding does could be leased, and the age limits were more restricted, but by making the subcategory, we convinced our county to not have age caps on our meat goats for breeding does for heritage breeds. So we kind of just, as we kind of branched out further and further, we made more exceptions for ourselves to broaden the opportunity since we had such a limited pool of animals to choose from. So we were like, if you tell us that our goats have to be under a year old, we don't have enough goats. If you tell us they have to be under 2 years old, we still don't have enough goats. So the first year that we did this, we only had 7 eligible goats. And so, like, how do we make a category that is worthy of having a judge show up for? Because the county's paying for the judge, and every time slot is valuable. So we had to prove that we were going to show up and that we were going to fill that ring, and we did. I'll go into kind of the tree here in a minute. Erin, if you want to go to the next slide. Maybe I should change the order on this. Anyways, the approval and getting this allowed, I guess that's the right word, was a lot of back and forth between both our county leadership and our state leadership. And so our 4-H office is run by the Minnesota Extension Service, which is run by the University of Minnesota. And with that, we had to go up a level from our county and talk to our state project development committee. And that gentleman's name was David Foley. And in conversations with him, he was really excited about what we were trying to do. He just didn't know how we were going to be successful. So his suggestion and recommendation was for us to get it started at our county level. And then after we get it in the fair book and successfully achieve a county fair, is then our next step would be to get more counties to add the same category to their fair book. And then if we can create enough demand, enough competition, that we have enough people to choose from in a pool to make like a category at the state fair, so we'd actually have competition, then they would consider adding us to the state fair book. And they're thinking that he was optimistic, thinking that in 5 years we'd be able to do that. And we still haven't gotten another county in 2 years to join us. So I think he's right that 5 years is probably very optimistic, but not impossible. We're doing our best to get exposure through different outlets of news and media. And then we also go to as many workshops as we can. 4-H is really great at hosting livestock workshops. And so you can travel outside of your own county and go to a workshop across the state and participate in their exercises and knowledge and correspondence. And so we go there as students, but then we speak up during the questions and conversations and try to just leave little Easter eggs here and there, and hoping that somebody will recognize us or have a question. And we get a lot of good feedback, but we haven't quite picked up any extra counties to join us yet. So we're still hoping we'll find a few of those.
How are they defining heritage breeds? Is that a definition that you gave them, or is it something that they put in place?
Great question. We are using the Livestock Conservancy list of breeds as the qualifiers, at least right now for Washington County. So that would include the Myotonics, Arapawas, us, and then if that list changes, then we would just revisit that list. And that was a decision that was not necessarily scrubbed, but it seemed like and I don't want to say easy, but it was making it so it wasn't like us as like Erin and I making the decision ourselves of who qualified. It was saying, okay, this is a higher up group that has evaluated these breeds and made a decision about their status. And then they wouldn't be ones that are typically animals that are bred for meat qualities or bred for dairy qualities, that we would be kind of our own quality of animal. And we bounced around the idea of trying to call it like a homesteading category or a all-purpose goat category, but none of those quite sat well with the county office, and they latched onto the heritage breed title. And talking to the judges, they also thought that that was an appropriate way of categorizing these animals.
Yeah, I think that gives you a lot of leadway into defining criteria on how to judge these animals as well.
Yeah, and then it also helps because if we are able to convince 4-H to do this for other species, then calling it heritage with whether it's cattle or swine, it's a name that can just kind of carry over if they are to create a template or a method of continuing this and broadening it either across the state or a nation. So the slide that Erin has up now is kind of the timeline of what steps it took to get to where we are now, but in that first year. And one of the, I won't go through this line by line, but one of the things that came up during this strategy of trying to make this all happen was how we were going to fund it, because we realized that if we were going to start taking on all these extra kids, it was going to cost us probably a decent amount of money that we weren't really sure what that budget was going to look like. So we had heard about a grant, an award from the state of Minnesota 4-H program called the Helping Hands Grant. And what it is where youth want to work with adult leadership to do something that they couldn't do without a little help. And so Everett and Winnie, our children, helped write this grant and apply for it, knowing that they wanted to share their love of the San Clemente Island goats with their peers and their 4-H clubs. And so we applied for $1,000 that we would put towards things like portable hay racks for the fair, sew leads and collars, and the educational materials, some books and things like that to study with the kids. And we were awarded the $1,000 grant that we applied for. So that was a great way to start the year. And then as soon as we had the award money, we knew that we could definitely make this project work. And we recruited kids from our local club, and we filled up all the spots for all the animals. We actually had a little hiccup because we thought that the leasing of the goats would work just like the llamas, and that we could have kids of more than one age group on the same animal. With the llamas, we're allowed to do that. So the kids that are grades 3 through 5, and then the kids 6 through 8, and the kids 9 through 12 can all overlap because they show in different categories. But we learned that with the goats, they wouldn't let us do that because of, even though the breeding does don't go to auction, just the way that the programming is structured, they couldn't do that. So we recruited more kids than we actually had goats for. And so right before the fair, we actually had to take a step back and ask a few kids to not show animals, which was really hard to do at the end. But they all understood that we were learning as we went. And so they were all good sports about it. Everybody was really accommodating, even though it was a little disappointing on our part. We felt pretty bad about it. Erin, you want to advance the slide? Thank you. Let's see. So last year when we received that award, there were actually 36 other counties that that received the award. So it was pretty neat to be part of that pool of those 55 projects that received awards. We did apply for it again in 2025 and did not receive a second grant, which was a little disappointing. We saw that some people received it multiple years in a row for their projects, but we're not giving up. We'll try again next year or try a different avenue. But it was our first experience with grant writing, and it went pretty smoothly. It was a little frustrating, the process, because they didn't give you a lot of room to put in your answers. So you spent all this time writing this really beautiful essay, and then you go to like copy paste it into the box and you realize your character count is maxed out and you have to revise it, and a little frustrating, but lessons learned. I'll have to not wait till the last minute to fill out my applications next time. You want to jump ahead, Erin? So these are the names of people that helped us out. I've referred to these people before. So the main who is our family that participated in this. Our biggest helper was Ann Schurz, our county's extension, the main person, our main contact. and then other people that were supportive of us and helping us figure out how to make this program get started were David Foley at the state level, Becky Tempest at our local club level, and Dan, who was our llama project leader. And in this photo here, this is one of the 4-H leaders doing animal ID check-in, and the young man there holding Ruby, he's checking in the animal. So we did microchipping. So that was a new thing for our county office. They had not had animals do microchipping for check-in. 4-H requires ear tags or tattooing, and we told them we don't do that. We do microchipping, and they're like, well, you have to bring your own card reader, and we're like, got it. So we brought our reader, and they thought it was pretty nifty, and they accepted it. We don't know if it would work at state level yet, but it went really smoothly. Erin would help scan, and then Megan here in the photo, she had the clipboard with the animal registration information. So the students just line up the first day of the fair, and they get checked in, and it's a fun way to get the fair season started. So with our season, we ran pretty short season for working with the kids. Between being Minnesota and our weather, we don't have a lot of dry days or wet, non-snowy days once the school year is over. So we're looking at, we could probably start in April if we were on the ball, but most of our lessons were June through August, or into August. Our first couple of weeks were mainly just getting the kids comfortable with our property, learning safety, like if you open a gate, close the gate, don't touch a fence because it might be hot, which animals are maybe the more skittish animals and which ones are the more social animals. Things like trying to be clean. We did some water bucket cleaning and some sanitizing with them, taught them some biosecurity things, and did a lot of petting. One way that we worked with the kids to get comfortable with the animals, because some of them were very nervous, just as nervous as the animals were, was doing body part ID. So we do vocabulary, like what is the pole, and then have the kids touch the pole of the goat's head, or how many feet do they have, and then they have to count, and silly things like where is their tail, and usually the kids would giggle because of course they know where their tail is, but it would give the kids a chance to either touch it with their hand or touch it with a brush or a comb, and so they were learning even though they thought they were just playing games. It was a lot of fun. And then after the first couple of weeks, once they were more comfortable with everybody, then the lessons kind of broke down into two parts. The first part being a little bit of academic work. So we had some curriculum that we prepared, and then the rest of it was working with the animals and getting those animals trained to walk on a lead, because they weren't trained before this. So we didn't pre-train the goats. The kids trained the goats. So it was a lot of work. Here are some examples of the study materials that we used. The image on the left, the just browsing image, there's actually a series of 3 books that 4-H put together with these activities. So it kind of goes through like a story about what is a meat goat, or what is kidding season like, or what parasites are important to know about. And then the other book there, the Goat Resource Handbook, is more of a college level book, but it has really good information. And then the graphic in the middle is just of a word search. It's not actually one that I created, just one that was on the internet. And we did a lot of word searches and animal body part, like fill in the blank identification things. So the kids always had something to take home with them to study, and some of the kids really took to it and read every single page, and other kids I don't think ever looked at it, and that's their choice because they get to gain from this what they want to. But we did our best to provide them resources so they could learn if they really wanted to take on the challenge. Another thing that 4-H provided for us in addition, well, not provided, but offers, is the leasing contract. So we did not have to come up with our own legal contract, which was really helpful. 4-H comes up with guidelines of how to handle that relationship and how to ask questions about what the responsibilities of each party are. And then there is a form that the students actually have to fill out with the name of the animal and depending on the species, certain information and who they're leasing it from. And then they have to submit that form along with a photo of the animal they're working with and upload that into the 4-H website when they register their animals before the fair. And so we did this for the llamas, and it's worked very well, and so we chose to use the same paperwork for the goats. Time commitment, we were trying to break this down to figure out how much time we actually put into this, and I'm confident I spent more time than this. I just couldn't actually calculate it. But as a rough amount, as a leader, for about 5 months, so about maybe 2 months leading up to the event and then a little bit afterwards of working with these kids, I'd say it was about an hour a week that I spent before the lessons of just going through, like, what would my topic be for the week? Are we going to talk about grooming? Are we going to talk about nutrition? Are we going to talk about biosecurity? Are we going to talk about showmanship? And then coming up with some photocopies or tabbing page numbers to know what we would talk about. And then the time with the families was about 2 to 3 hours a week, and the lessons ran about an hour to an hour and a half, and that was about 3 months worth of lessons. Getting ready for the fair, I'd say that was about an extra 12 hours that week prepping for the fair. And then the fair itself, Aaron actually put in more hours than I did. I was balancing the kids and the farm, and he just basically lived at the barn at the fairgrounds for the 4 days. We needed to be there at 6:30 in the morning, and we didn't get to leave until 10:30 at night. So they were 4 very long days. We recruited our leasing families to help with some of the shifts, which was a lot of help, mainly so they could just be voices and be present in the barn. Not so much that we needed them there, but it was nice to know that the water buckets were checked, that the hay was filled, and that there were bodies checking in on the animals throughout the day. And then they also helped with cleaning up after the fair. So we had to muck the stalls and put everything in the trailer, get the animals loaded. That was maybe 2 hours with everybody working together, and then 2 hours at home afterwards. And then we had to do health checks and make sure that we were all safe, ready to put the animals back into the herd afterwards. I didn't really have a time for that. It just kind of, a few days later, we're just like, okay, we're good to go. And then let's just take a deep breath and move on. Some of the equipment that we acquired for the fair, this is not a complete list, but things like show collars and brushes and combs and water buckets and bowls for grain. Our animal identification all had to be, all of our registration paperwork and such we put together in a binder. We needed a first aid kit for the animals, a first aid kit for the humans, because kids get injured all the time, rake and broom, dustpan, the hay rack, things like bungees and zip ties and fasteners, a toolbox, and then all of our textbooks and handouts. So 2 things that we purchased that we are so glad that we did are the portable hay racks from Premier One. Not sponsored, but I love those hay racks. They're awesome. We use them at home, and we brought them to the fair. And then the Weaver show collars, the ones with the prongs actually did work best. We didn't buy them the first year, and we kind of regretted it. So the second year we bought them, and the kids handled the animals so much better with them. They didn't slip as much, especially with how narrow the SEI's necks are. It really helped keep everything in place and gave the kids a lot more confidence. So having the right gear definitely made the second year easier. This is kind of backpedaling a little bit, but this chart shows like what divisions the kids got to show in for our county fair. So we needed to be under the meat goat category. And with that, the kids ended up having up to 4 chances to compete. So there was the actual animal category. So that would be the breeding does, which then were the subcategory of heritage breeds, which on the fair book was listed as an exhibition class. And then they had the asterisk, and that meant that it was not eligible for state fair or auction. And then with below that, then our second year, we were able to divide the goats into 2 groups. And we had enough goats, which was a great problem. And so we defines them as kidded and not kidded. So instead of giving them an age like most of the goat categories were, we just decided to have those that had kidded and those that had not, since that kind of defined a change in their body type. And then they had showmanship and the knowledge test. So the knowledge test was a paper test that they actually take, like old school, multiple choice, and a little essay at the end. And they were judged on that separately. And then showmanship, they only get to go in the ring once for that. So they pick their best goats, or in this case, the leasing kids, whoever they were assigned. And then some of the kids got to show twice in the kidded and non-kidded category. Actually, Winnie was the only one that chose to do twice. So that was her little extra special show ring feature for herself to show off her skills, that she's very passionate about the goats. I did not show in this graphic, but Erin included in this next slide that our clover buds, which are the youngest kids, this is a new thing for 4-H, that the clover buds, which are kids grades K through 3, actually K through 12, sorry, 2, oh my goodness. So kindergarten, first and second grader kids were not able to show livestock previously. That was kind of a safety issue, but the leadership has determined that if they show with an adult or with a trained youth, that they can actually show animals in the ring, and their show experience is different than the rest of the kids. They only go out once for showmanship, and they don't get drilled quite the same. It's more of like an introduction to showing animals, and they get to speak with the judge, they get to show off their animal with the help of their older person, and kind of get their like 2 minutes of fame. And so we were the only goats that were in our clover bud division for Washington County this year were actually San Clemente goats. So we had 3 kids out there, and that was really awesome to see them representing our goats and having a chance to take advantage of that new category at our fair. The junior, intermediate, and senior showmanship, those are age groups. So junior is the grades 3 through 5, intermediate 6 through 8, and senior is the high school students. And then the other 2 are the breeding does and kidded and non-kidded. Other ways that our kids were able to show off San Clemente Island goats at the fair that was not involving the physical animals was through posters and art projects. So they were able to submit like a kind of like a science fair type project with animal science and then their art. So Everett had done the hand sketch for the competition over the summer, and he submitted that to the fair, and then Winnie did a painting of Ulysses and submitted that to the fair as well with this heritage breed poster that wasn't specifically goats, but did cover San Clemente Island goats, including other ones from the Livestock Conservancy. So this, let's see, Winnie took the poster, the heritage breed poster, to the state fair actually. So she did very well with that. She got a blue ribbon at the county and state fair. And our next step is to try to grow this. So not just growing it within our own county, but also getting other breeders around Minnesota to start the same project in their counties, and then to level up to the state, and then work with our state project development committee to add that category to the state fair, which would be awesome. And then if we can go even bigger, to make it for all species, to have a heritage breed class at their county and state fairs. All right, I talked a lot. Any other questions?
Did you show any of the SEIs in that agility class that I saw in one of your videos?
Oh, yes, I didn't even get into that. Oh, goodness. Yes. Erin, you can talk about that a little bit. Or maybe he can't. I'll start, and if he jumps in, I'll stop. So the agility class is an open class. So that was not a 4-H division, but it is something that we had the opportunity to participate in. Unfortunately, it overlaps at the exact same time as our llama project does for the county fair. So I stayed in the llama barn because I'm a green volunteer for the llama project. But Aaron kind of hopped back and forth a little bit so he could participate in that. We had, I think, 4 kids participate in the agility, and that was really neat. So that's an obstacle course, and it's to all breeds, so it's not just specifically heritage breeds. It's any of the animals at the fair that want to do it, any of the goats at the fair that want to do it. And they set up obstacles. They have tunnels and ramps and a little tent, and they have to go in a certain order and compete in that. So the kids and the adults compete against each other, and it's silliness, and it's a lot of fun, and the goats actually do very well in it.
I actually didn't get to see any of it. I missed all of it. But we actually didn't just have kids showing this year. We actually had 2 of the parents decide to show an open class. And so that was kind of fun. I think one kid also did showing with the SCIs. So it's kind of grown a little bit more even since we have the goats there. And next year, I think even more of the parents will actually be showing them. So it'll get a little bit more experience for the parents. And we have one parent or grandparent, I should say, in particular, who didn't realize how much she needed goats in her life. And she was over just this past weekend. And kind of fun, I asked her if she would be willing to join the Youth Services Committee for the SCIs. And she was very honored that we thought so highly of her. But she's been a great addition, and just it's wonderful to have parents and grandparents who support their youth and really support us too in that case too, because they make it easier on us. And she took the time to print out a whole bunch of information, and I could not believe how many people stopped and looked at that information throughout the week at the fair. So it's about building that community.
That's great.
Yeah, we had some really amazing parents and grandparents that participated this year. The gentleman that's on the photo with the ladder hanging the sign, his name is Matt. He is actually somebody that we knew in high school. He, as a child, got to lease animals from his aunt and uncle and show animals at the fair. And so when he found out that we were going to lease our goats, he was super excited that his daughter would have the opportunity to lease an animal and show at the fair. So he's continuing that family tradition on, and he does metalworking. And so as a thank you to the barn and the goat program as a whole, he made a sign for the goat barn and donated it, which was really awesome, because before it had a very boring, just hand-painted sign that said dairy goats. Actually, it didn't even say all goats. It said dairy goats specifically. So he made a sign for the barn and got it hung up right before the fair. So that was quite the honor to know that we had that much of an impact on him that he wanted to give that gift.
That is really cool. Now, you guys, next year, I want to see that agility class videotape.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that's going to be hilarious.
Oh, it will be. I'm trying to get them to move the time on it, which is always really difficult to change the fair schedule, because it's just, there's so much going on that nobody likes to move anything because they don't know what else is going to influence when you switch something. But I'm working on it. I'm trying to get all the open class goat stuff on a day that we don't have 4-H goats and we don't have 4-H llamas.
Yeah.
I'm demanding. I'm needy.
And we actually asked, we're like, so who took some pictures or video of you guys doing this? And they were like, oh, we totally didn't even think of that.
Oh, no.
So we didn't
oh, no.
either.
Yeah, we were disappointed, but we understand, with all the excitement of moving animals across the fairgrounds to a different activity spot, you just take care of the animal and your children. You don't really think about anything else.
You're going to have to, assign a parent as videographer.
Yes.
And make sure that they get specific things. You probably need a couple of them, yeah.
Probably, yeah. And I would recruit my own family, but they're in the llama barn watching the kids show llamas, so I got to find somebody that's not related to me.
Exactly. Now, what did you guys do as far as biosecurity for your goats while they were at the fair?
So we don't have a lot of opportunities to do much. One strategy that we took on was making sure that our hay racks were at the back of the stalls, because we noticed at the previous year's fair that fairgoers would grab hay from stalls that had the hay racks by the gates, and they would just pick it up and they would walk over to another goat and feed them the hay from a different stall. So we moved our hay back, and then when we saw any of the people that were working with their goats in other stalls, if we felt comfortable, we would ask if they could like push their hay or their feed stuff away from the doors. Another thing that we did was try to have as many of us humans present as often as possible, because just being there helps people know, like, oh, you want to pet them? Like, try petting on their neck. Like, don't pet their face. Like, pet them on their shoulder or pet them under their chest, and trying to get them not to do like nose mouth kind of touching. And then we didn't really give them opportunities to feed the goats. The previous year we'd bring out treats and stuff. It's like, oh, do you want to feed them? And this year we're like, if you want to pet them. That's about as far as we let it go. And then
why did you restrict them feeding treats?
Because of the dirty hands. If they have been at another animal that's 3 stalls down that has something that we don't have an immunity to, then we didn't want them to transfer the boogers and the saliva and whatnot.
Gotcha.
So it was not necessarily something that we put up. We didn't put up signs saying don't pet the goats, but we just wanted it to be as controlled as possible without making it so it's not fun for anybody. We didn't want to take away all the fun, because that's part of it, is people just come there because it's like a giant petting zoo. They're excited. People want to see, they want to learn, they want to touch. And so we would take the animals out of the stall on occasion and let people like see how little the babies are, or see how tall the full-grown goats are. And so when the kids wanted to show off their animal to their friends or family, then we would, give them an opportunity to walk the animals around.
Did you do any treatment on the stalls? Because I noticed the stalls were wood. A lot of the stalls at our local fair is metal, right? But you still have a ground versus not a cement, but just, kind of a ground floor. And I was just wondering if you did any sort of treatment in case there was something in the wood or the ground or whatever.
We were not able to do that in advance. Some of the other livestock barns, we heard, did some treatment. Aaron, do you want to go into that? I need to move the dog here. I'll be right back. Sorry.
Yeah, so like the pigs, they actually do like a bleach spray. The goat barn doesn't get as much attention as some of the others, but one thing is that we do the same stalls every year, and they are really only used during the fair. They're not used, many times during the year. So I think that's an advantage to us, having the same stalls, and then also knowing that there aren't really that many animals in that barn, any other time of the year. So it makes it a little bit more comfortable that way.
That helps, yeah.
And we also put a space between us and the next ones over. We're fortunate that we're able to do that. And it's just doing the best we can, and we have to look at the advantage of having people see them, and the advantage, or and the risk of biosecurity all in one. So we did do testing earlier this year, and we did come back as clean, so we were really excited about that. And this year we actually didn't have any goats get sick from being at the fair, so that was really nice as well. Last year we had horrible coughs, but this year we didn't really have problems after the fair from the fair.
Yeah, our only illnesses this summer were parasite loads that were not related to the fair.
That's really nice.
It was also a lot cooler this year, so the highs were in the low 80s versus the high 90s, so that helped out a lot too.
I'm sorry, poor you. As I deal with 115.
Yeah, us Nordic folk.
Yeah. You can say the same in winter.
Yes, yes. Yeah, we've asked for our project development committee in the Ag Society to change the ventilation and actually add exhaust fans, which hasn't happened yet, but we keep pushing for it. So hopefully we can get better airflow, and that will hopefully also help with minimizing some of the respiratory issues and things like that. But I mean, I don't know if Erin mentioned that we bring in our own bedding and things like that. So we know at least what goes in the stalls came from our farm.
That helps a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're actually missing our PDC meeting right now to be here.
What's the PDC?
It's the Project Development Committee. So we are on our county's Project Development Committee, which runs the livestock projects for our county for 4-H.
Ah, okay. Sorry, didn't recognize the acronym.
That's okay. We didn't know what it was before we joined it either.
And those people are the most kind, wonderful group of people. Really thankful that we jumped in and started helping. We don't do much compared to them, but they pretty much set up everything, and it's amazing what that group gets done. So a huge thing that I recommend is, if you want to do something like what we're doing, is to find that same committee that sets things up, because they're so welcoming and they love seeing new families come in and really add to the fair and get more kids involved, because that's what it's always talked about with all of those people is, you know, these kids, you know, how can we get more kids involved? How can we get them to really enjoy it? And it's not about getting more kids, it is about getting more kids, but it's also about getting kids that want to be there and want to grow. So it's been really inspiring getting to meet those guys, and there's a couple ladies on there too. So.
Well, I mean, 4-H, FFA, Scouts, all these kinds of things are really, really important to kids, and they don't go anywhere without adults helping, you know, provide the structure and support for it. So to me, it's just like a really great thing to do as far as contributing to your community.
Yeah, and I had no idea how much I didn't know until I wanted to teach other people, and then I start studying, and I'm like, oh my goodness, and how much I've gained both in like how to work with kids and how to teach the information, and then our kids have become teachers too in the process. So like this photo of Everett working with this little girl, Esther, like she came into the season very late. She actually probably was only with us for maybe 4 weeks before the fair, and she started very frustrated and didn't know how to work with the animals. And we talked with her one day, and we're like, the animals are learning just like you are learning. And her mom talked to her, and Everett and Winnie talked to her. And the next day she came with a whole new attitude, and she worked with that goat with Marianne, and she just owned that show. Like, she just glowed. She did so well. And
oh, that's great.
She was the smallest little peanut of a kid, and she's got the biggest, out of the goats that were in the Clover Bud eligible goats, she had the biggest goat, and you would not have known that goat could have totally plowed her over if she wanted to, because she just grabbed that collar and just with so much confidence just led her through the ring. And that little girl grew a lot. Everett grew a lot, learning how to work with her and how to like show like what his knowledge was and apply that to somebody else. And so it's just a huge growth for all of us.
Yeah, that sounds like a great program. I'm going to look in to see if there's something like Clover Buds in our local 4-H. I don't know. I mean.
Yeah, and every state runs slightly differently. So I don't know if all the states have adopted Clover Buds in livestock yet, or if that's something that's kind of an up and coming. So I haven't looked into that too much, but this is just our second year of allowing it with Minnesota. So it's been a lot of fun to see these little kids out there, and the questions the judges ask aren't hard. I think the one question was, what does your goat eat? And then, you know, the kid hesitated, and he goes, does he eat Oreos? And he's like, no, I do. And, you know, the kid laughs because, and then he's like, he eats hay. It's like, oh. The judge was just working the answers out of the kid, just trying to make him comfortable. And so it was just fun. You know, we teach them like to know like the animal's age and what they eat and who their parents are, like who their dam and sire are, and if they have siblings, and how you work with them and what's their best feature and what's something you want to improve on. And so we make them talk out all these responses. But once they're in the show ring, like you just don't know what the judge is going to throw at them. But we tell them in practice, like, we're working you harder now, so when you get in the show ring, it's easy.
Right. Well, it's just a great confidence builder. I think it's a great character builder for the kids, compassion builder, even if they don't go on to do stuff with animals. I just think it's a good program. Like to see more kids get involved, and even kids. I mean, a lot of urban kids and suburban kids don't have the opportunity, but with the leasing program like you've defined, there could be some more opportunities out there for them.
Yes, definitely. For our project with the goats, none of the other families have acreage, so we are their opportunity. For the kids that are in the llama project, some of the kids have other animals like horses, or maybe have acreage but don't have animals. But most of them come from like a suburban living situation. We are close enough to the city that we maybe would be recruiting some more urban kids, but our county specifically doesn't have a lot of urban, like if you would like think of like an inner city kind of situation, we don't have that in our county. But 4-H does allow you to register for projects outside of your county. So we could recruit kids from neighboring counties if they could find a way to get here.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and something that I think... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's been a lot of work, but it's also been like so gratifying, like to like look back and go, wow, like we did this.
That's similar to what I was going to say, is that anyone thinking about doing a leasing program that can do it, it's much more rewarding for us, like as the adults, than you realize until you're there and after it's done and you see the kids, you know, and even the parents that come and volunteer, you know, to work with their kid, because sometimes we need more help than just Jenny and I. You know, those parents end up liking it so much that, like this year, that, you know, 2 of them decided to show, and I could see next year even more of them showing, because those 2 ladies that showed had the most fun time, and you know, they were giggling like teenagers, you know, afterwards, just about how much fun it was. And so I think it just brings more opportunity for them, and it's something that I encourage other people to work hard on doing if they're able to.
Really neat program.
Thank you.
And Lisa, I know you have been wanting to hear about this for a while, so I was really happy to see you on here.
Yeah, I've been wanting to see how you guys put it together, and I've been in contact for other reasons with the AI project that we're doing this year with our local 4-H folks. But one of the things I wanted to know is what you did, so that maybe I could go talk to them. I know that they're always looking for help, but also in California, 4-H is pretty rigid. But maybe, you know, they'd be open to ideas like this. And
yeah, the exhibition class, I don't know. I think that this isn't like the first time our county has done an exhibition class for like overall in animals. But we are the only exhibition class in the goat category right now. And so it comes with its limitations, but at the same time, it's that opportunity to like be experimental and give it a try and see how many kids you can recruit. And then if we prove ourselves, then maybe we can become official, which would be awesome. And so that opportunity of maybe wording it that way to your local county and club might be that avenue that gives them that little cushion of like, okay, well, we can kind of make it our own right now because it's not going to the next step.
Yeah, and I think we have an opportunity, and Mike, if you're still on, I mean, if Mike pushes this down in his county, right, and tries to do it, and I push it in my county up here in Northern California, there is a Navajo Churro sheep breeder over in, she's either in Napa or Sonoma County, I can't remember which, but she has successfully gotten a heritage breed category for sheep in that county. But maybe between all of us, if we can like demonstrate, you know, there's interest, right? Yeah. 3 counties, you know, it's a pretty good start. Maybe we could get something going at the state level as well, which would be pretty exciting because our state fair is a pretty big deal here. I don't know, it seems like an opportunity to not only just, I mean, just the fact of helping the kids and all of the personal development that it gives the kids to participate in these kinds of things, I think makes it worthwhile. But then also if we can expand the message about these heritage breeds and all this kind of stuff at a broader level, that's really worthwhile to me.
Definitely.
And this might just be a spear point to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's neat because when now that we have these opportunities to engage with not just the kids, but also like the judges, and then like we don't know where the judges take these conversations after they leave the fair. So, you know, I don't know what imprint we're leaving on the bigger, not that I'm looking to necessarily make our animals stock show animals, like I don't expect to be part of that industry, but just to use 4-H as that avenue for the kids and the animals to gain something. And so if our breeding program at our farm's purpose is for youth development, I am totally satisfied with knowing that what we accomplished was we bred for 4-H youth development. And if we don't accomplish anything else with our goats other than if that's what we become known for, then like that's still amazing, and I'm super happy with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, any other questions at all? Sounds good. Yeah, I want to thank everyone for attending, and I hope that this is recording, and we'll get this uploaded here in the next couple of days so we can show that to Lisa. And I think that'll really help you to be able to send them a video that outlines it like that. You know, Jenny and I put a little bit of time into the presentation, and you know, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, and thank you for doing that, Jenny.
Well, we appreciate you guys doing that because I think a lot of us want to repeat what you did, you know, and hopefully see the same success. That I think it could be really good, even if it doesn't promote San Clemente Island goats independently, right? It's a good contribution.
Well, I think in California they just need to be like, hey, they are literally a California goat. Why would we not support them?
Exactly. That's what I would like to tell the goat people here.
Do they have
yeah, but it's California, so you know, you never know out here. But it sure sounds like it. You know, a San Clemente Island goat here in San Clemente just seems like such a natural. And I got to think my county, Orange County. I would think there's some interest. Definitely got me intrigued listening, and I just wanted to thank you guys for doing that and sharing your experiences. It's definitely an eye opener for me. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and for anybody that's either listening now or in the future, if you watch this on replay, like definitely reach out if you have questions. Whether you contact us through the Breeders Association or find us on social media, like we are more than happy to discuss the process or the troubles that we had or any hurdles that we had to get through, and happy to help others figure this out.
We appreciate it.
We appreciate you guys as well, so thank you very much. So, well, you guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you all for taking time to spend with us.
Thank you for putting this together.
You bet.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great day.